YouTube, Awesome Writer here. Welcome to my review for King-ohger episode 42, and this was The Real Secrets of King Racules. During this episode, which was in a lot of ways primarily a bunch of flashbacks, feeling almost like one of those clip show episodes from Community where it's a clip show of stuff you've never seen before, I couldn't help but think back to the Secrets of King Racules miniseries, in which I thought we were going to get more details. I mean, it's clear as you watch the series, especially as we're at this point, that there was major reveals that they were saving for much later in the series, which makes me wonder about why we needed the Secrets of King Racules special, because it was primarily just some of the origins for like the Ohsama system and King-ohger 0, which we wound up getting explained in the series multiple times anyway. I assume it's probably something to do with the marketing of the exclusives, but I couldn't help but think that that series is so unnecessary now and could have been handled differently, especially since they kind of needed to save these reveals for later. But in this one, we effectively get revealed what seemed to be the case at the end of last week's, which is this thing has been basically a long con. We learn that, once Racules came under the thumb of Doug's dead, he basically vowed to make himself a villain and basically go deep undercover and, I don't mind being the bad guy, just as long as if you're going to be bad with purpose, that type of thing. And we go all throughout his history of showing him sort of effectively trying to allocate resources and become more powerful until Gira kind of threw a wrench in his plans. And then after that point, he's like, oh, it's clear now. He's a Toku protagonist hero. He shouts nonsense in people's faces. He's the true inspiration. So then his goal kind of became to prop Gira up. Because at one point during the beginning of the flashbacks, I'm like, if he could somehow secretly sort of communicate with Kaguragi and his sister, couldn't he eventually just kind of communicate to the King-ohgers and Gira? But I guess his point was to give Gira an obstacle to overcome, which you see over the course of that, is he then needed Gira to be built up, because it made sense because he has the powers of Doug's dead, since he's kind of a creation of him. That we don't get answers on. It seems like next week's going to basically be part 2 of the flashbacks, as we're going to get more details about that, as this was primarily about Racules' story. But it was very well done. And I gotta say, you've probably heard me say this all throughout this series and in other videos where the topic comes up, but I really hope someday we can just get a villain ranger that just stays a villain with no redemption arc. However, I have to say, I'm ultimately okay with the way this was done. Admittedly, it would have been kind of a cool twist if they killed Doug's dead at the end of this and then Racules was like, no, I'm gonna be the villain now. But I have to say, this is a good way of doing it, because it's not that cliche story like Stacy's. Stacy's had to be one of the most cliche redemption stories ever, of just the bad guy turning good. This was something totally different and I think well done, and adds depth to Racules, and you gotta give it to Racules at how he was so effectively able to play the villain. Like I said, all throughout the series, we've gotten very, very small glimpses of humanity, primarily in the flashbacks from when they were younger. Most of the stuff we've seen, that could be hinting towards his redemption or goodness as in his adult life were very slim to none. So he did a really good job with that. And I really just loved the reveal and enhanced his character. And it's funny how it makes you so much more inspired by Racules as a character than Gira, and yet Gira is the one that's propped up as the hero. And that's probably my only nitpick about it, but it fits with the story, is that it does create that classic situation of worshiping the obnoxious Toku twerp lead, and I just don't understand the appeal of the character, this type of character, both in the meta sense of the franchise in terms of the audience. I know that that's an appealing type of character over there, but I'm like, why is the most annoying person imaginable so appealing? But also, within the story, it's why are you always following these little twerp weirdos? And it's yes, Gira, to be fair, Gira hasn't just been a total cartoon and has had development, but he's still pretty annoying. And it's just, that's my only nitpick, is that it's kind of this repeated narrative of, we gotta prop up the obnoxious Toku lead to be the true hero. But it does work within the confines of the plot, because he does have that, celestial DNA or whatever's in him that makes him more keen to finish this off. Now, another small nitpick is maybe that importance of, we need to build him up to be the one to defeat him, does take away from a bit of the importance of the team dynamic, and that brings up, discussions people have had in the past about, something like Daigo, it steals the focus. And in my opinion, while I'm never a fan of seeing the annoying Toku lead put on a pedestal, I don't feel this is a series where he's stolen the whole spotlight. While yes, he's got main character focus, I feel they've done such a great job at fleshing out the other King characters throughout the series that they didn't feel like they fell by the wayside. So I just some small little nitpicks and thoughts here and there. I do gotta say, though, two of my favorite things from the whole flashbacks and the context is the parallels drawn between him and Gira and him and Kaguragi. The parallels of Racules actually pretending to be a tyrant king for a good purpose, like legitimately pretending to be a tyrant king with a very convincing act, with a step-by-step plan, where all along he's actually trying to save them, like doing that sort of parallel and comparison of the way Gira constantly shouts that he's a tyrant king, you know, and as basically a cartoon bit, that you're just classic Toku protagonist, I have a catchphrase, I gotta shout it in the most annoying way possible bit with that annoying laugh he does. And they even, of course, go over that in the flashbacks, and I thought that was such a cool way to sort of connect the brothers and create a parallel, and unintentionally kind of a funny meta bit, just because, like, the way Gira goes about it is so superficial, but this was like a legit way of doing it. Also, the parallel between him and Kaguragi, both kings willing to get their hands in the dirt for their kingdom and look like the bad guy to ultimately do the good thing. I thought that was well done. It showed why Kaguragi would want to work with him, and you know, I think it was helped by the fact that they recently reinforced Kaguragi's character and got you to understand him more. I thought that was really cool and really well done. Also explained a lot more about like why his sister was so willing to follow him and stuff throughout the series. You know, a lot of the times that would be almost played for comedy of like her being like, oh, my sweet Racules, but it was such a well done flashback in the sense that it recontextualizes and kind of explains some things that were like, you're maybe curious about, like that, like with her, and also shows like how he survived and stuff like that back from their original battle. And now it seems that at this moment the primary villain is dead. We don't know how his rules work because he's so powerful that he could come back. But with this series, I never know where they're going. Obviously, we haven't killed all the villains. We have, I think, 7 episodes left. So I'll be really curious to see like where this goes from here. Because Racules also is survived. He like barely is surviving, and they're going to heal him. And like I said, next week it seems like we're going to be getting the backstory more on Gira, which I'm really eager to find out. I think that might clarify some things and maybe make that story a little better for me. Not that I'm hating it. Again, I'm just saying I think that might enhance the story when we get some more context and exactly what Gira is and stuff like that. I have to say, I'm glad Racules survived in a way because I'm curious to see where his character goes, but I feel like if he had died here at this sacrificial moment, it would have been a good ending for him, and kind of bittersweet because like Gira would have known that his brother wasn't terrible, and you know, then of course he wouldn't get a chance to get to know him afterwards, but I think that would have been a nice, heroic, bittersweet ending. But I'm curious to see where he goes, and again, curious where this goes, period. I honestly thought from some of the dialogue when they're like, oh, you know, I got this god-killing weapon, but it wasn't enough, we have to do more. I thought maybe that this was going to be just the first confrontation leading to the final battle. So I was surprised when they seemingly killed him, and he like died laughing, which seemed very fitting because it almost just seemed like he was very surprised and entertained by it, because that's kind of his whole thing about, that's why they show like, oh, he created the Fury of the Gods long ago, because he was basically bored. He's like, look, you people aren't doing it for me, I'm going to wipe you out and start over and entertain. He's very much like Chuck from Supernatural. But yeah, very strong episode, you know, really did a lot of favors for Racules' character. I'll be curious to get more backstory about how the Gira stuff works next week and see how that might contextualize stuff further. But as always, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.